Hello, I am Mudita, and welcome back to Satisfactory. In the last video, I automated most of the Tier 1 and 2 parts. Then I sent off the space elevator to complete Phase 1. In this video, I'm going to automate the last major Tier 2 item, get a starter coal factory going, set up the initial steel production, and then add even more coal power, hopefully to last me until I unlock oil in the next phase. And we're starting off with just a real small temporary setup for some quartz. I just drop a stack of quartz in there and let it turn it into quartz crystal. That's a whole lot faster than me manually crafting them. So if we come over here, I decided to add a path. Not my favorite thing to do, but to get there the normal way, especially since I don't have a jetpack, was just really a pain. So I just added a whole bunch of foundations so that I can run along here. And here we are. After I laid all the foundations, I realized it's pretty far and I didn't really want to run power all the way out here just for this temporary setup. So I just threw down a whole bunch of portable miners. So I just gather up a few hundred and then run it back, and that'll last me plenty long. I just need it really for this one unlock. Back in the hub. So I don't think I showed it off last episode, but you probably saw it in a couple of the shots. I decided to do a little bit of customizing, and I just think that the big head is just so funny. And now that we can put the Pioneer in the photo mode, it's just, I love it. I went with the alpaca trinket because, well, it's an animal and it's white. So I think that's about as close as I'm going to get to a cow. 7 days. Well, I think that means we're on day 7 or 8. I haven't died yet. So far, so good. So the quartz is all done processing, but I need to get this temporary setup going. Looking in the codex, I've got all of the basic ones automated, but there's one last one that I haven't done yet, and that's Modular Frames. And because I was running out of space, I think we're just going to go up. Got my stairs right here. We're just going to add on up here. So I think I'll probably need a little bit more space. Probably go out here. And here's the 4th iron node that I haven't used yet. And for this, I only need 96 per minute. So I don't even need the full 120. Alright, so that comes up pretty close to the middle, although the miners are pretty much never directly in line. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna put a floor hole right here and make this mark 2, and that's where it's gonna come out. So from under here, let's just take care of this now. Drag this all the way down to the ground. There we go. Okay, looking at the spacing, I actually want to rotate this. So I'm gonna go to the left here, and then from here I'm going to go with a splitter on the first half of the foundation, and then we'll do the 2 other ones. Get the spacing right. Yep. So that'll go right on the edge of those 2, and that'll go right on the edge of these 2. Alright, so 96 will go into here. Should be 48 and 48. I think, yeah, should be just right. So we're going to put these in the center of each foundation. Even though they fit closer together, but that's about as close as you can do it, and still be able to make these right turns into here. If we do 96 divided by 4, 24 on each one. So if we take a look at this snapshot of my spreadsheet, you can see I need to send iron ingots into 3 different places. 18 of them will go to cast screws, 54 to iron plates, 24 to iron rods. And if one of those numbers sounds familiar, that's because that is exactly what this is putting out. So I am actually going to add a little bit more to this side. I want to go all the way down. Still need to be able to use my stairs. And for this one, I'm going to go ahead and add a splitter. That'll go right there. And then right here, we're going to add 2 constructors. I need a total of 24 iron rods. That means each one needs to make 12. So we'll just split that 24 in half, and there's my 12 and my 12. All right, so I had 96. Now I've got 72. So the 72 will get split between 18 and 54. So 18 over 72, 0.25. Meaning this is going to be real easy. We just need a merger here to bring all three together. And just because I don't want this to take up too much space, I'm going to put the splitter right next to it here. And then that means right in the middle of this foundation and on the edge, that one can go there. So now we have it all coming into here. So now we need to split it 3/4 and 1/4. So I'll have a splitter on this side and then a merger on this side. So if we split this in half, only works in default this close. And then if we take this half and split it in half, here's my 3/4, here's my 1/4. Now with this 1/4, I am going to split it one more time. And that's going to go right into here. And now I just need 2 more constructors. And we'll get these basically as close as I can fit them. I need a total of 4 constructors, so let's just set out all 4. And let's set some recipes. So the 1/4 amount, or the 18, is going to the cast screws. In total, I need 72 screws, divided by 2 is 36. So 36 will come out of each one of these, and then each one requires 9. And now on this side, we'll just make it nice and easy. We'll put this splitter right here. So this is going to be 54, so only need to mark 1. Then we'll just feed both of these constructors. These are going to be making my iron plates. 36 divided by 2 is 18. And each one will require 27. That times 2 is 54. So all the numbers check out. When I first switched over to update 1.1, I was already at the very end game. But now that I'm back in the early game, the photo mode is so amazing. Being able to just kind of get an overhead view of your factory without having to build watchtowers everywhere is a huge benefit. I kind of picture it as, you have a little camera drone that stays really steady and is quiet. Obviously for me, being able to record this stuff for you, it's a game changer for me. But I found that I use it quite a bit, even when I'm not recording. Being able to just kind of get a different vantage point and a view without having to run around and get yourself in the right spot, especially before you get the jetpack or the hover pack. It takes a little getting used to, but do yourself a favor and get used to it. It's really helpful. So pretty easy load balancing, and really that's the hard part. For this last part, I just need to add on a few more to the side, I think, and grab myself some more iron plates. Thankfully, that's just right down below. Now I just need the last 2 assemblers. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and line up the back ends here so that they're all even. And I'm going to go ahead and place 2 of them. Modular frames at 100%. And that would be skipping a step. I kind of need to turn these into reinforced iron plates first, don't I? Alright, so each of these are going to output 3. Alright, and if we take a look at the numbers, we've got 18 and 36. This is outputting 18 iron plates. Well, look at that. Let's go ahead and just set that up there. Which means I think I can set this one to right there. And will this fit? Oh, like a glove. Now if we come down here to screws, that one's 36. So let's go ahead and just place a lift here. Get that sent in. And then the last 36, we can just run this along here. And right into there. Terrific. Alright, so last step. This is not going to be quite as neat as I would like, but we'll make it work. I think I can set these actually fairly close. So we'll go right here. And there. Alright, so this will directly feed into those 2. And we'll set these. So that would be the 3 reinforced iron plates. So now I just need to plug in the rods, which are right over here. So for this one, I'll just drag it all the way around. Yeah, it could be neater, but no clipping. And for this one, we're going to go ahead and just go up and over, and we'll go around this way. All right, and then I just need to find the right spot to put that one over here. So that'll come right here. Face it that way. Let's make sure that's lined up correctly. Looks good. And then this can just snake right around here. And there's the rods. I just need to throw down some power poles and we can turn it on. The power poles are in place. And then I went ahead and added another set of stairs. I thought only having one way up here wasn't a good idea. So at least now I can run up 2 ways. And the finished product is just getting merged together. And then I'm sending it down here. And then I'm just going to run that right along here. And I just added another container. So just next to all the other iron products. Now I just need to connect this one to this one. And there we go. There's the first of so many frames that we're going to make in this playthrough. I wanted to let it run for a couple more cycles, make sure that everything was staying on and green, and it's looking good. That is 4 modular frames per minute. A good start. There they are. And now that I have all the phase 1 items done, now let's start working on phase 2. The first thing up, coal power. One of the major requirements for coal power is copper sheets. So that's what this little setup is going to do. Right now this miner is only clocked at 30, so I'm going to increase this to 60, and then I'm going to split this line off here. That'll send 30 copper into this smelter. And then this smelter will go into the splitter. And then I just have 2 machines, each underclocked so that they'll only intake 15, output 7.5. So 2 of them together will equal 15 sheets per minute. And then I just have that going into a container. So we'll just increase this to 60 because it takes a second. Actually, it's pretty quick. All right, well, then we can just do that real fast. Nice, quick and easy 15 copper sheets per minute. It's finally time for that wonderful coal power. Let's burn some coal instead of this biomass. So as I admire the space elevator, we can get a better picture of my to-do list here on the side. So I'm going to go through what I really like to do for my first coal power plant. It's going to be 1 miner mark 1 if it's up here, or I think I might actually need a second one because I think it's going to be 2 normals. This will be 120 coal per minute, which needs 8 of the coal power generators. We pull up our handy calculator here. Each machine needs 45 water per minute. So times 8 would be 360. Each water extractor outputs 120. And that's why you'll commonly see people pair up 8 with 3 water extractors. And then I'll go through why I prefer to place 4. So we've got a wonderful foggy day, so we really can't see, but there are 4 normal coal nodes down here. So let's go take a closer look. With good old photo mode, does make it a little bit easier. So we've got 2 here and then 2 there. So I'm going to go ahead and just use these 2. So that gives me easier access to all this water. So let me place some foundations and then I'll go through how to set this up. The 2 miners are in place and we've got them merged together. So I've got a 120 line right here. And it's just going to come down this way, right on top of the water, because my personal preference is to keep water pipes short. And since this is temporary, I might as well just make things easy on myself. So the size of this right here is, it's 4 foundations deep, and then it is 10 foundations wide, and we're going to pretty much use all of that space. So we start with the coal generator. We'll get that right on the edge, but I need to kind of make sure, so let's go over here. Yep, right on the edge, and right on the edge in the back. Close enough.
Interesting, most pioneers already had coal power set up by this point because they understood their responsibility to humanity. Adjusting pioneer attitude metrics. Reminder, coal-powered generators require coal.
Slow and steady wins the race, Ada. I am definitely not a speedrunner. But let's go ahead and speed through placing 7 more. Terrific. So we'll first start with placing 2 lifts, just so I can get some spacing for the pipes, right? So if you hold down Alt and scroll your mouse wheel, you can see at the bottom, you can change through 10 different pages of hotbar. And so don't forget to use these. That's super handy. I usually make my number 2 pipes. And of course, I've played the game so many times that I'm used to putting things in certain places. This makes things easier. Alright, so now I just want to place this right in the middle, and I already know that this is the middle, but if you wanted to double check, if you just nudge it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's it lined up. And then if we go to this side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, yep, right in the middle. And we've got plenty of space. And another good tip, press X to pull up your customizer. And if I right click on any of these swatches, except for the custom swatch, you can't right click on this one. But any of these other ones, I can right click and it'll bring up this menu. And now I can select pipes. And so now any pipes that I place, including these, so now if I copy this, so if I copy it, it's going to pick the same color. However, if I just bring up a brand new one now, and I place it in that same spot in between the two, this one will be blue. And now all my other pipes will also be blue. So here are the 2 new pipe modes. You've got the straight mode on the left and the new curve on the right. I don't have the clean pipes unlocked. So this is the same pipe as this one. It's just that this one is long enough that it has the flow indicator on there. Whereas with the curve, I think it needs a straight enough section for it to be one of these, and so you don't get it. So I'm sure some of you would probably prefer this look. I am kind of a sucker for right angles. Eventually I will try to work in some curves and whatnot. For now, we're going to stick with boring right angles. Each machine needs 45, so if I have 2 of them paired together, this needs 90 water. And that's where I'm going to use the handy lookout tower trick. So I'm going to place that just right in line with this. And then I'm actually going to nudge it 2 meters out. And then go ahead and place it. Now I can grab my water extractor. And if I hold control, it'll snap to the lookout tower. So now I just want to get it lined up right in the middle. Press H. I can't nudge it. If you try, it'll say building cannot be nudged. But now I have it nice and in line. And it's a nice 2 meters away from the platform. You could just connect it straight there if you wanted to, but because for whatever reason, this is sitting up just ever so slightly higher. For whatever reason, it's really hard to get platforms at just the right level with these. And that's probably because these change in kind of height across the world, I think. Or that's what it feels like. So normally what I do is I just place one basically as close as I can. And if you don't like the look of that, maybe we can go through the different build modes. Usually Auto 2D, I think, is a really good one for this short section. It'll just make it really straight. And then that'll go straight into there. And now with this one, I can just underclock it to 90. And so this is why I like to do 4. Now I can place, let's go ahead and get rid of that one. Each coal power plant is 1 1/4 foundations wide. Each water extractor is 2 1/2. And so they pair up just really well. And now they're all underclocked to 90, so I'll save a little bit of power. I don't have to worry about any weird water issues with water sloshing or it not getting fed. Because to me, an extra 20 copper sheets, 10 reinforced iron plates, and 10 rotors, it'll save you a little bit on power. And I've never had any issues with the water this way. Keeps everything nice and simple. Well, now that it's getting nighttime, let me go ahead and finish this. It's going to be some pretty easy load balancing since they're in pairs of 2s. All I need to do is grab a splitter, find the middle spot, which looks like about there. And now because we have vertical nudging, I can press page up 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Make sure that's in the middle. And there we go. And now I can connect these two. And then I'll just do the same thing right here, and it'll bring these two together, and then we'll have one final one that'll split the 2 halves. So instead of having to work with my flashlight, let me just go ahead and skip ahead. And I'll see you when this is all done. Well, finishing all that was pretty easy. And, oh, they're just turning off. So the water extractors, I went ahead and powered on first. Anytime I'm dealing with fluids and I'm not having to do any looping it back or recycling excess water or anything like that, I pretty much always pre-fill the pipes. Does look good at night, but not the best lighting. I'm gonna wait a few more minutes and then we'll get the coal sent in and get this powered on. Brand new day. It's a little foggy, but I think this air is still just a little too clean. Let's start polluting. So this should be as easy as connecting this pole to this pole. And just like that, we've got 8 coal-powered generators, all staying green. Look at that delicious smoke. They can be really awkward to build with, but man, they are cool-looking buildings. I love how gigantic everything is in this game. Here's a fun reference for you. Me and my big head. Let's take a look at the power. Nice and steady 600. Alright, let's take a look at one that's not right on top of the coal generator. A little less loud. As long as my consumption is staying under the production, I'm not going to use any of the biomass. But the capacity is over 1,000 because I do still have 450 in available power with the biomass burners. And I'm going to leave those there until I have a good amount more power and I just don't have to worry. It's not close now, but 300 is pretty easy to build, even in the early game. Now that I've got all that power, let's go ahead and knock out another milestone. Basic steel production. And if we take a look, this one I could still turn in, and this one I do definitely want. And then everything in tier 4 is going to require steel, so might as well get working on that. As I admire the space elevator, let's take a quick look at the plan. For this very first setup, I only have the Mark II belts, so I'm limited to 120. I could gather more nodes, but we just need to keep this one small so we can get everything unlocked. And then we'll have access to Mark III, which are more than twice as fast, and the Mark II miners. That's going to be real nice. I'm going to take 120 iron ore, 120 coal, turn that into 120 steel ingots, and then I'm going to split that off so that 30 are going to steel pipes, and that'll create 20. And then 90 of the ingots will go to steel beams, and that'll create 22.5. So fairly even amounts. But instead of 3 foundries, I'm going to place 4. Let's take our jump again. There's a pure iron node, and then there's 2 normal coal nodes right here. I'm going to go ahead and lay down the foundations and the miners, and then we can go ahead and set up all the rest of the machines. And here it is. So real simple setup. Just got the 1 miner that's going to have 120 iron ore coming out of here and coming down, and then it's just snaking around this miner. Each one of these output 60, and so they're just getting grouped together, so I've got 120 coal. And I'm just going to set up the machines right here. Alright, so first things first, I actually don't really like the way these belts look. It's all temporary, but we can make it look better. And it won't be too hard. So I'm going to start with a splitter just because I want to make sure that I have enough spacing. So instead of placing the machines first, we're actually going to work from the start and go that way. that's going to be plenty space. So just to get the spacing right, if that one is at the edge of that foundation, this one can be right here. And I only need 4 foundries, so it means a total of 3 splitters. Now the tricky part here is getting the spacing just right for this. I think it's probably going to need to be there. Let's try that. And what I mean by this is once we have this 1, 2, 3, 4. If it's too far away, it won't snap. But thankfully, you can hear it click, and that means it'll actually be connected when you place them. Okay, so there's our spacing. And if this one's going to be in the center, then I'm just going to line up this one on this side. Then I just need one here. Delete this one. There we go, there's our 4, and the spacing should be good. Let's go ahead and set the recipe to the only one I can, steel ingots. So the reason I'm placing 4 is if you placed 3, it would be 120 divided by 3. So it'd be 40 on each one, which is totally fine. That's a nice, easy number to work with. But if we look at my spreadsheet, I'm sending 30 one way and 90 the other way. And I mean, I could group these together and then resplit them, or I could place 4 machines and then each one will output 30. Makes my life a little bit easier and it saves me some power. So we'll just copy and paste. Everything is going to go to the outside. So that one will go there. And then this one will be the one that gets lifted up. So right there. And then I'll do the same thing on this side. Alright, let's do all the ones on the ground first. So that one will go there. Go ahead and switch to straight mode. And then same on this side. And then for the other ones, we just need some lifts. Straight mode is so finicky, but if you go one direction, it'll work a lot of the time. And then sometimes it'll only work in default. If each one of these require 30 of each, that means 30 and 30, so into here is 60. So we're still good with Mark 1 belts. And then from here is where we'll need the Mark 2. And we can go ahead and take that iron and we'll plug that in there. Alright, and then for the coal, instead of grouping them together for 1.5 foundations, I'm just going to go ahead and send them straight in like this. And these are 60 each, so we can just go ahead and use good old Mark 1 belts. And there we go. I think it looks cooler this way anyways. Now for the 3 constructors. So let's go ahead and just do the easy one first. Just set this one right here, make sure it's lined up. And this is going to be the steel pipes, so 30 in, 20 steel pipes out. And then for this, I could place 3 constructors and just underclock them, or I could do some pretty easy load balancing. I'm going to go ahead and place a merger there, and well, I'm just going to place one here. So the outside ones will connect directly to the merger. And then this inside one here, I'm going to grab a splitter. And that's going to get split in half. Now I can place constructors right in front of these. Plug those straight into there. I'm making 22.5 over 2 machines, so 11.25 for each. And there we go. Now I just need to group these 2 together. We just need one merger right in the middle. And now I am just going to lay down a bunch of foundations. I'm just going to bring them to over here. That way they're a little bit closer to everything else. So I think right here is a good spot. Yeah, something like this. So if we follow these back, here we go. And other than that, I didn't really need to change anything. I've got power connections to them all, so now all we need to do is make the one last connection. Get this turned on. And here we go. There's the first steel pipes, steel beams of the playthrough. Well, you gotta love when they're that quick and easy and up to 100%. Thankfully, these are gonna build up pretty quickly, but I do need quite a few for all the different unlocks, so no point in just waiting around. We've got other stuff to do. Okay, so I kind of lied. I dilly-dallied taking screenshots and recording that stuff that it took me long enough that it built up the 200 of the steel beams and the steel pipes pretty quickly. So let's go ahead and just turn in this Mark III milestone.
Hard work has repeatedly proven to be the best cure for any kind of stress. Now back to work.
Back to work. You got it, Ada. Pretty sure I talked about refining all that quartz and then completely forgot to show off that the whole reason was that I wanted to make enough crystal oscillators so that I could unlock the Explorer. Whoops, but that was the whole point of it. Because now I can queue up an Explorer. So 5 crystal oscillators and 5 motors. Now I definitely don't have motors unlocked. Oh, but the hard drive crash sites come in handy. I've got 31 already. Do need to craft a couple more crystal oscillators though. Alright, now we've got a new ride. Let's go ahead and throw a full stack in there. Let's make this really bright so I don't lose it. Yeah, that'll stand out. I love how big my head is. Yeah, the big head is definitely the right call. This is great. Oh, it just goes backwards through that bar. Alright, let's take a look at the map real quick. We were up here. I know that some of the closest Sam is somewhere over here. There's some up here too. There's also some other stuff up here. So I'm going to take the journey and get over here. There's 2 good ways to get over here. And the first path that I went to get there isn't the best path, so let me show you that way first. Oh, don't run over the doggo. Ah, here's the path. Alright, so you've got this little land bridge here that we can drive over, and thankfully most of the enemies just kind of ignore you when you're in a vehicle. Kind of nice. Right, and then from here, I just want to get up on top of this little thing. These guys don't ignore me. But I don't think you take any damage. Not going to stick around to find out. And from here, we are going to hug this little corner. Some vegetation you run over, and some you just run into like a brick wall. Alright, so we hang a left, and then we're going to go through this little cave here. Now the great thing about the vehicle is I don't take any of this gas poison damage. And there is a spider. But because there's a spider and the gas, I am not going to try to get that summer sloop right now. I will be back for it though. Quick stop. Pick up some nuts. Now we are up here in the Crater Lakes. So there is a big boy over here. But you can just kind of like get out and stand on your vehicle, which is pretty nice. Oh, except for he might do that. Hey, stop that. Not good enough. So there is 1, 2, 3 pure coal nodes. So not too long, I am going to take advantage of some of this. But we'll get back to that later. First, there's a handy crash site here. The drop pods are a little bit more stable than my car, so we'll stand on this thing first. Alright, let's start dismantling everything. There's more. Nailed it. 120 megawatts. And if you right click, you can cut your stacks in half. So I'm just going to cut them down. Nice small stacks. Guess I forgot to give that one power. Alright, there's the hard drive. And now we can clean up our mess. And now we can delete the drop pod and clean up everything else. It's another thing I really like the camera mode for. You can get that bird eye view. Make sure you didn't leave anything. Alright, and none of that was the real reason I came up here. That purple goodness right there. The reason I came. Right, that looks pretty close. I'm just going to lay down some foundations. Why not drive all the way out there? I'll bring the car closer, but we might as well just throw down a whole bunch of these. Get them going. Because since this is impure, they go really slow. Only 20 per minute for each one. So it'll take 5 minutes for this thing to stop. Go ahead and set up a MAM. And go ahead and grab at least a little bit out of here. We can finally start working through this branch. Okay. Got enough for this one. And now I need to actually craft some of the reanimated SAM. Thankfully only 10. And I can use my handy crafting bench right here. I always forget about this. I mean, crafting a craft bench is really cheap anyways, but it is a nice option that you have here. I don't have any of the Mercer spheres on me, although I'm sure I could find one, but that's alright. But I might be able to just knock this one out real quick now that I can craft these. Yeah, I should have enough. Let's see if we've got enough salmon here. Got plenty of those crafted up. Let's unlock this one.
The loop organ contains scripture, contains instruments to compose symphonies of root and rod recycling.
Yep. And I think that's about as far as I can go right now. Definitely don't have the circuit boards for the rest of these. Automating these right now is going to be a little bit tricky, but we could do something about at least this step. Alright, let's just go ahead and slap down a miner. Since it's a Mark 1 miner on an impure node, I'm only getting 30 out of here. But that's okay. It'll add up after a while. So let's go ahead and just send that right into there. This is going to do our reanimated SAM. But we can definitely underclock this since it's only going to get 30. And just divide this by 4. And there we go. And I'm just going to place a small container. The miner in the constructor is actually going to be less than 9. Since this is underclocked by quite a bit. And I don't have the power towers unlocked quite yet, but I do want to get this going. So this is something I don't do a lot, but every once in a while, there is a good use for just a really small satellite thing. I don't need a ton, but I would like to have some reanimated SAM built up, because I don't want to do any more handcrafting than I need to. So I'm going to throw 100 biofuel in here, and we'll see how much that creates. Since I'm not using it in my biofuel, it's just sitting around right now, so I think this is a good use of it. I want to take a little bit of this back with me, so in the meantime what I'm going to do is go back to the coal, and I'm going to start placing some foundations, because this is where I'm going to do a bigger coal plant. It really didn't take long for the beans to just appear up here, even though they didn't use the stairs. I swear, they just teleport. I think they spawn inside these lakes a lot of the time, and so when you build on top of it, they just spawn right on top of your buildings. So I laid down a bunch of foundations and got the height just right. So now only just the very top of the indicator light is clipping through. So I'm okay with that. And then this platform will be where the coal generators go. Once I was done with the SAM research, I went ahead and scanned that hard drive. Now we can see, got a couple really good ones in here. I definitely know I'm going to be using the stitched iron plate. But some of these other ones are probably going to stay in this library for quite a while. I don't use these too much, but maybe this is the playthrough where I start using some of the more random recipes. This is definitely one I'll get good use out of. But for now, we'll just leave them in here until I need them. But now that that's done, I can knock out a couple more. Thankfully, there were a couple of just loose sulfur rocks, so I was able to get enough to unlock the black powder here. And now that I have steel pipes, I can finally get my Nobelisk. Because there is currently a bunch of rocks in my way. And there's a slug. I kind of want that slug. So I'm going to stockpile a whole bunch of this coal. And now I'm going to drive back to the home base, where there's a sulfur node nearby. And then I can get the rest of that unlocked, so that when I come back, I'll be able to take care of those rocks. Alright, back at the home base. Now there's more MAM stuff to do. When you start to go exploring, it doesn't take long to realize the gas mask is such a huge addition. That gas can kill you quick. I'll have to get some more fabric. And now I can make the inhalers. Might as well make as many as we can. Same with the gas filters. Looks like I'll need to get some more mycelia. 2 out of the 5 done in tier 4, so let's go ahead and look. So I'm going to go ahead and unlock these, but what I want to work towards is the expanded power infrastructure. And you know what? I might actually have these already. But that's really what I need to automate next. And now I've got those and the Mark II miners unlocked, so I think it's about time we set up something for these. Now we're back out to the temporary steel area. We're going to squeeze a little bit more out of this spot. And I think we're going to do it just right here. Let's real quickly go over the plan for this. I'll take 120 iron ore and 120 coal, turn that into the 120 steel ingots. All of that will be turned into steel beams. And then I combine the 30 steel beams with 60 concrete, and I have 10 encased industrial beams per minute. Okay, so since we're going to work in this area right here, let's make sure I give myself some space. Yeah, we'll just line it up right there. I need 3 foundries, but let's go ahead and set the first recipe. These will each produce 40. Now when I copy it, now I don't have to mess with the recipe anymore. Load balancing 3 machines is, so nice and easy. Put that one there, and then this one, we can just go ahead and nudge it up. Okay, I think I need to bring these 1, maybe 2 meters closer. Let's see if 1's close enough. Nope, still doesn't connect. You'd still have to manually place that. So let's try one more. There we go. I just really like having the splitters and mergers either on, a half of a foundation or right along the middle or right along the seam. It just makes lining everything else up just so much easier. All right, and then I can just add some lifts to these 2. Get those plugged in. Ooh. And not default. Let's go ahead and use straight mode. Then these bottom ones will connect here. Now I just need to plug up 120 iron and 120 coal. So for the coal, I'm just going to use this one. And I can do that because now I can switch this from a Mark I to a Mark II. So now without any power shards, this one will output 120 by itself. It does have that about 10-second startup time. So that means that I am probably going to fluctuate on power just a little bit. But that is part of the reason why I haven't turned off any of my biomass burners. It's just going to burn a little bit of biomass for about 10 seconds. But now what I can do, that's going to be 120 all by itself. And now I can make this one a Mark II, and I'll have 120 just for this. And now for the iron. Being able to scale cliffs is just the funniest thing with the parachute. Alright, so this is going to go out this way. And then we're just going to have it drop off. Yeah, probably right here. Drag some of these foundations out. And we'll do the same thing, and we're going to upgrade this one to a Mark II. So now, this one is going to output 240. So what I can do is go ahead and just delete that, and then we're going to add a splitter. Let's get it somewhat lined up somewhere evenly. Looks good. So we'll have 120 go there. This one needs to be Mark III. And then we'll have a Mark II come out this way. Then we can just place a lift here, bring that all the way down. So we'll just go down to, let's see, 2, 3, 4, because that is now at the same height of what that splitter is. And this is where ladders do come in pretty handy. Now I can just build this. Now I can get up here way easier. So go ahead and delete the conveyor pull. I like to delete those just because I want to make sure that this actually connects to the lift and not that pole. I don't know if that still happens, but it used to every once in a while. Now with the stackable conveyor pull, I can bring this up to the second height. And we can bring that all the way out to here. So I'm not going to plug it in quite yet because I haven't finished the rest of this. But there's the iron and there's the coal. Just a couple more pieces. And to anybody that noticed that I didn't reline up the other two, yep, I just finally realized that. Now they're nice and even. Quick and easy fix. So from here, we're just going to grab a merger. We're going to get it on this half of the foundation, lined up with that one. Connect all three. And then I'm going to go ahead and place the splitter right there. Don't like to do, but it is nice and space efficient. And I'm going to make sure this is a Mark II belt. This will be 120 steel ingots. And we just want to get these lined up, yep, right on the edge. But I can center these on the splitter here. So one goes here, one goes here. Both are at steel beams at 100%. And then this is one of those spots where it's just too close and only default's going to work. But that works for me. So since each of the steel pipes and the steel beams are centered on their own foundation, let's go ahead and just do the same thing. So that's the end goal. It's going to end up right there. Now I just need 2 assemblers. And each of these are encased industrial beams, but they're only going to be making 5 apiece. I'll go ahead and place a merger down here and get both of these grouped up. The final product is going to go right into there. Alright, so for the last bits of load balancing, well, 2 of these are going to be easy because I can just plug up one constructor to one assembler. But I still need the concrete. Thankfully there's a limestone node, oh yeah, right there. And that's how I'm going to get all of that over here. And let's see, to get this spacing right, let's go ahead and just place one. Now if I grab a splitter, let's try to get this lined up. Alright, so now it's just going to barely clip into both sides. Not too bad. Nice and snug. And so now we can take this, connect there, and then from the last one, come all the way over. And there's the steel beams for that one. And now I just need to plug 60 concrete right into here. So let me get the concrete set up. It's just the miner and 4 constructors. And then get everything connected to power. And we can watch it come to life. Like I said, real simple setup. This will take the 180 limestone and turn it into 60 concrete. And that's just going to go right along here. And plug right into that splitter. And everything else is the same. It's much brighter now that it's daytime. Alright, so to get this started, we are going to power on the coal. And we can go ahead and send in the iron. Should probably make sure I turn on all those machines. And we should probably power on the concrete. Looks so much better with the straight belts now. Pretty sure I forgot to unmute myself when I said we had the first encased industrial beams. There they are, and now it looks like the concrete has caught up once I remember to put the power shard in there. And now it's staying on at 100%. That is 10 encased industrial beams per minute. Not a lot, but since I don't have the Mark IV belts right now, I actually have very limited use. But I do want to build a few Mark II miners, so this is going to help a lot. I already had enough encased industrial beams from crash sites to turn in the expanded power infrastructure, but now I can go ahead and turn in the very last one to tier 4. Just need some more pipes. There we go. To be honest, I always forget about jump pads. I so rarely ever use them. Maybe I'll find a use for them this playthrough. Something tells me I doubt it. But I do really like these new additions for the hypertubes. This is just really nice. I can definitely see myself using the hypertubes to get from tower to tower within a biome. And then kind of using the trains to go from biome to biome. But we'll see. Really kind of just playing this one by ear. With all the milestones complete, now we've got some building to do. So the first thing I want to do is add more power. So much easier just to take care of that and then just not have to worry about it. So I really just don't want to hear that power grid crashing noise again. If I'm going to scale up my coal power, there is something I need from the MAM. And that is in the alien technology. I want this, the production amplifier. I ran over to the desert over there and grabbed some more cactus, so I had the mycelia to make myself the gas mask, and I've got a whole stack of 50 filters. So now I can go back and kill that spider and get that summer sloop. And then I also know in the middle of one of these random lakes, there's a whole bunch of them. There's another one. So I'm going to jump in my explorer, get the one from that cave, and get the one over there. So I know the location of those two. There's definitely some other ones. I think there's even one somewhere over here. It's probably on top of a rock. I just haven't seen it. So I'm going to go grab those real quick and some extra sand. And then I will be right back here. I've got my 2 summer sloop. And thankfully I've picked up enough circuit boards from crash sites. Now we can get our production amplifier. Such a game changer. Alright, now that we bust out our iStamp 900. And so here is the trick if you really want to get the most bang for your buck here. Is you want to go down and pick something like biomass. Because it only needs 10, which means I need to go grab some more. Alright, now I'm back. So I've got my 10. And now if I put my sloop in here, the reason what you want to do something like biomass, the very first cycle is just going to run like normal. And then the summer sloop will kick in. So watch. So the first one gave me 5. And then the second cycle gave me 10. Now the summer sloop is actually activated. So I can come down to the recipes I actually want to use, which are all of these. So first things first, let's do our power shards. So far I've only used 1 power slug, and that was for the miner for the limestone. Because I wanted to be able to double the output for all of these. And now that I have 4, what I can do is load this up. And now we can make it go a little bit faster. Now let's do the yellow. So instead of 6 power shards, I just got 12. And instead of 5, I just got 10. So it was definitely worth the wait. And now we can double dip on these. So I can double the amount of just the hog protein that I get. And then I'll be able to double these going into the DNA capsules. Even with this being power sharded, it's going to take a minute, so please hold. There goes the last one. Let's see what we got. 426! That's not bad. Now let's see how many coupons that gets me. $49. I'll take it. Do a little shopping. Nope, eventually. Same with the throughput. That would be nice, but yeah, let's definitely get some of these. Let's go ahead and... It's only 1. What else do we need here? Get some of these later. Oh, I want all of these, but man, they're so expensive. So let's definitely get the concrete and the concrete walls. Go ahead and get the double ramps. What are we? Oh, only 16? Oh, then yeah, we're gonna unlock the elevator. And let's go ahead and unlock some pillars. Let's get all the different pillars right here. Might as well get some beams. Alright, that's good for now. We'll save the rest for later. Now I've got access to new toys. Next step, let's get some more power. So let me show you the better way to get up to the crater lakes from this area. Instead of going to the right, we're going to go pretty much just straight down to where the sulfur is. So here's the impure sulfur, and we're just going to hang it right across this little bridge. It's a pretty steep grade, but the explorer can make it. And knock out some spiders on the way. And here we are. Back to the platform. Oh, hello, beans. The best thing about being in phase 2, besides coal power and getting away from the biomass, now I have blueprints. So of course, we're going to set one up for this. I'm not going to use all 3 coal nodes. I think I'm just going to use 2. And I'm hoping that is going to be enough. But if not, I can always just add on some more. Alright, so let's see how far back we can get this. So that looks like as far back. For whatever reason, these are like a half a meter off. So if you hold control and nudge, you can get it just a little bit farther. Does kind of throw things off a little bit here in the front sometimes, but I'm gonna go with it. Just take up the whole blueprinter, and then I'm gonna set a second one right next to it. I'm basically gonna do the exact same thing I did down below at my first temporary one. So I'm gonna set up these 2 and grab a splitter. Let's see, make sure. Oh, that's right. Because I nudged the coal generators that half a meter, now my splitter is gonna be off that half a meter in either direction. So if I hold control, we can get it directly lined up. And now I just need to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. And now it's in line. And another thing I love about blueprints is I can add my power shards in here already. So at my temporary one, I have 8 coal generators for 120 coal. Over here, I'm going to have 8 coal generators for 240 coal. So I can keep everything the same. I'm just going to overclock them to 200% so that it'll intake twice as much coal and water and output twice as much energy. Copy and paste it across both of those. And now we just need pipes. Right, and then we just need the junction, and we'll just place it as far back as we can go. So right there, and it looks like that should be the center. And we'll use straight mode and get those plugged up there. And so now when I pair up 2 of those with a water extractor, at the temporary one, I was underclocking them to 90 because each one needed 45. But now each coal generator needs 90 itself. So I'm going to overclock it to 150% so that I can keep the layout and everything the same. Keeps everything nice and simple. And thankfully, these really don't use too much power. But yeah, now I can finally get rid of this. And the last thing to do to save myself just a little bit of time is go ahead and place a power pole right here in the middle, and we'll just join up these 2. And that way I can just go down the line and connect all the power poles together. Alright, and let's see, I should have, yep, so this is 10 foundations, so my coal generators are going to take up exactly this much space. After I get the machines placed, I'll add on some more so that I can actually walk around the factory. Alright, so this should be pretty easy. I just want to make sure I've got... Oh, that's way more space than I need. I may end up changing the spacing, but something like that. And then you just get to place it. Well, I made the rookie mistake of not queuing all these things up in a to-do list before I drove over here. I'm so used to having everything in my dimensional depots. Sometimes when you go back to the beginning of the game, you make some silly mistakes. So I'm going to run back and grab some more materials, and then I'm going to lay this out. And so I'm just going to skip ahead because honestly, laying all this out is super simple. We'll just go through a little bit of tour. It's going to be 4 of these blueprints right here, and then there will be a second row in the back, and that'll have another 4 of those blueprints. So it'll be a row of 8 and 8. And now that I have floor and wall holes, I'll be able to just add the floor hole right here. Straight mode is not the right one for this. We go horizontal to vertical. And then once I get all the floor holes placed, I can come down here. And then I'll just make sure that the water extractor lines up with this. Now the nice thing about this layout, I'm actually going to need one more. It's going to come, yeah, right here. So it's right here in the middle. So we're actually going to need two more. So right in the middle of this foundation, I am going to place a pump. And I only need one, thankfully. This will provide 20. It'll actually give you 22, but I try not to rely on that extra 10%. And we can just use the foundations to count since each one is 4 meters. So that'll be 16, and that would be 20. And it's going to plug in somewhere in between there. So we should be fine with just one pump. And when I can, I much prefer to put them on a horizontal than put them on a vertical section of the pipe. I don't know why, it just seems to work better. I stole this from It's Bits. He swears by it, and I've never had an issue when I started doing it like this too. So I'm just going to keep sticking with it. And now that the pump is there, it gives me something for this to snap to. So we can just go, that looks about right. And I already know that every 2 coal generators is the same width as one of these. So I just need to place 4 more, and these are all going to be in the right spots as well. Well, we fast forwarded just a little bit. I've actually ran back and forth. I drove over here, I got my parts, I built the factory, and then I ran over here. And now it's time to go back the quick way without my vehicle. And that's these guys. Oh, I love these so much. Part of the reason why I've been driving back and forth instead of doing something like this earlier, just with the normal electrical poles. And really the zip line just doesn't work as well when you're not using the power towers. So I've been waiting to unlock these, and now this was a good time to finally put them in place. So for a couple of them, I just built up a little bit of a platform so that the angle isn't quite as sharp. And so now I should be able to jump on here. So a couple things with the zip line if you're new to it. If I left click, it's going to hold that out until I let go. Which means once I snap onto here, I will stay ziplining until I let go of the left mouse button. So let me show you. I'm holding it, and when I let go, I jump off. And I have to click it again to jump back on, or else I'm just going to fall to the ground. Now the other option you do have is if I let go and hit right click, now I actually just stay on. So I don't have to hold anything, I don't have to click anything. I can look around real nice and easy. And I'm just going to stay on here until I hit either of the mouse buttons. And so now with one mouse click, I can go from here all the way back to my home base. And if you ever want to get rid of what's in your hand, if you press H, it'll kind of hide your hands. Unless you have the hover pack. Well, let's take a little tour. Since the pipes are coming from down below, I've got plenty of room up here to do the belt work. And so I just have it elevated for this spot to get around the pipes because I don't want to clip belts through pipes. And then there's just the really simple 8-way load balancing. So you just split it in half, and split it in half. I'm using these 2 miners, and so those are just coming and getting fed right underneath. The second line is just coming over here, and it's just a mirror setup back here. I'm sure you've noticed, even though I unlocked a ton of the cosmetics, I really didn't put too much into this. And my reasoning behind that is I actually want to delete this one. I normally build a coal power plant and then it just stays for like the entire playthrough. But this time around, I think I want to clean it up and I'm not going to have the coal last forever. And part of the reason is I picked this location because it's such a good location to build at, but it's also 3 pure coal nodes. And once you get to the end game, that is a lot of coal. And sure, I could upgrade the miners and then just split off the 480 in total that this whole thing is using. But if I'm not going to build huge, I should be able to build more than enough fuel power once I get to that point. So this again is going to be a temporary factory. But even though it's temporary, I did want to make it at least a little bit easier to get around. So there's some stairs, and then I added the big beams and beam supports just because I didn't like the look of just the floating platform. And it really doesn't take much for my brain to say, yeah, that's good enough. Normally the coal power generators put out 75 megawatts each, but these are all overclocked to 200%. So these are each going to put out 150. And in total, I've got 16 of them. So this little power plant should be putting out 2,400 megawatts. Before we get the whole thing turned on, you probably noticed that the pipes are already full. I think this is the best way to do it. What I did was disconnect the miners from this entire system and then get this plugged up to water. That way all the water extractors turn on, They fill up the coal generators, and then once they're completely full, then I just disconnect it. If you keep the pipes nice and short like this, it takes no time at all, and I highly recommend it. It's a smooth way to start up power. Alright, so let's take a look at our main power before we turn this on. Pretty flat. Still a couple things turning on or off. I don't have sync set up to everything, so some things are just slowly shutting off over time. For the most part, got nice steady lines. I like to see that. Let's see if we can keep it that way. Well, that was quick. Let's take a look at the power. Right, yeah. Production is rock solid. Love to see it. So we still got the extra 450. 3,000's not bad. Although I may delete that first 600 coal plant that I made to free up that coal. Now I've got a decent amount of power. I've got the steel automated, and I have Mark II miners and Mark III bells. I think I can actually start building some of my permanent factories. So even though part of me really wants to rush to the next phase so I can get my jetpack, I'm going to spend a little bit more time in this phase so that I can start deleting some of those temporary factories I built near the hub. So look forward to that, and thanks for watching.